The ancient fire crackled beneath a vast canopy of stars, casting flickering shadows on the faces of those gathered around it. In this moment, thousands of years ago, our ancestors stood at the threshold of understanding, their eyes drawn upward to the infinite tapestry above. An elder, his weathered face illuminated by the flames, raised a gnarled finger toward the heavens. Around him, younger members of the tribe followed his gesture, their expressions a mixture of wonder and uncertainty. The elder traced patterns among the stars, connecting invisible lines between points of light that had guided their people for generations. These were not merely random specks in the darkness. They were markers of seasons, indicators of migration, eternal witnesses to human existence. In their primal way, these early humans grappled with questions that would echo through millennia. The night sky wasn't just an empty void. It was alive with mystery, telling stories they struggled to understand. Their minds, sophisticated despite their simple tools, yearned to comprehend the grand design above them. This scene, repeated countless times across continents and cultures, marked humanity's first steps toward understanding our place in the cosmos. Who created all of this? The question, first whispered around ancient fires, still resonates today. We understand the mechanics of the Big Bang, we can trace the evolution of stars and galaxies, but the fundamental mystery remains. What sparked it all into being? Consider the complexity. 30 trillion cells working in harmony within each human body. The precise dance of planets around stars. The intricate patterns of DNA that pass life from generation to generation. Each discovery seems to deepen rather than resolve the mystery. The question of creation leads inevitably to deeper inquiries. If there is a creator, whether conceived as a personal deity or a cosmic principle, where did it come from? Did this creator spring from some greater force, or has it existed eternally, outside the rules of cause and effect that govern our universe? These questions have driven humanity's greatest minds to search for answers in both the sacred and the scientific. For centuries, humanity has turned to both religion and science seeking answers. We've built grand temples to honor divine mysteries and constructed powerful telescopes to probe the cosmos. Priests have studied ancient texts, while physicists have explored quantum realms, each seeking their own path to truth. Yet the fundamental questions persist. The quest to understand our origins has driven the greatest achievements in human thought, from the philosophical insights of antiquity to the scientific breakthroughs of modern times. This search has united and divided us, sparked revolutions in thinking, and challenged our deepest assumptions about reality. In exploring these questions, we find ourselves confronting not just the mystery of creation, but the nature of existence itself. Whether through mathematical equations or sacred rituals, through empirical observation or spiritual insight, humanity continues its age-old quest to understand the ultimate source of all being. In 1894, Georges Lemaitre was born into a world caught between tradition and transformation. Belgium, his homeland, stood at the crossroads of European culture, where ancient cathedral spires shared the skyline with modern factories. The son of a Catholic family, young Georges grew up in an environment where faith and reason coexisted, though not always peacefully. At the University of Louvain, Lemaitre's brilliant mind flourished. He excelled in mathematics and physics, but unlike many of his peers, he saw no conflict between his scientific pursuits and his deep religious faith. While other students chose between the church and the laboratory, Lemaitre chose both, pursuing dual vocations as a priest and a scientist. The early 20th century was a time of profound change. Einstein's theories were revolutionizing physics, while the horrors of World War I were shaking traditional beliefs. Lemaitre served in the Belgian artillery, witnessing firsthand the destructive power of modern technology. Yet rather than weakening his faith, these experiences deepened his resolve to understand the universe's fundamental nature. Back at university after the war, he embarked on a journey that would challenge both scientific and religious orthodoxy. Lemaitre's path to discovery was marked by intense dedication and unique perspective. In the quiet halls of Louvain University, he spent countless hours studying Einstein's equations, seeing in them possibilities others had overlooked. His colleagues often found him working late into the night, surrounded by papers covered in complex calculations. What set Lemaitre apart was his ability to move between worlds. In the morning, he might celebrate Mass in the university chapel. By afternoon, he would be deep in astronomical calculations. This dual life wasn't without its challenges. Many in the scientific community viewed religion with suspicion, while some church officials were wary of scientific inquiry. Yet Lemaitre remained undaunted. He traveled to Cambridge and MIT, studying under the leading astronomers of his time. In these prestigious institutions, he kept his priestly collar while engaging in cutting-edge research. His unique position allowed him to see connections others missed. Unlike many scientists who viewed religion as an obstacle to progress, Lemaitre saw science and faith as complementary ways of understanding reality. He believed that truth, whether revealed through telescope or scripture, ultimately pointed to the same source. In 1927, Lemaitre published a groundbreaking paper that would change our understanding of the universe. Working in his modest office at Louvain, he proposed that the universe was not static but expanding. His calculations suggested that all matter and space had emerged from a single point, what he called the primeval atom. The scientific community's initial reaction was skeptical, even hostile. Einstein himself, upon reviewing Lemaitre's work, remarked, "Your mathematics is excellent, but your physics is abominable." At a conference in London, leading physicists dismissed his ideas as mere speculation. Lemaitre presented his findings with characteristic humility. In lectures and papers, he carefully explained how the expansion of the universe pointed to a definite beginning, a day without yesterday. His mathematical proofs were rigorous, his logic impeccable, yet many saw his theory as an attempt to smuggle religious creation myths into science. For Lemaitre, the connection between his theory and religious accounts of creation was secondary. He insisted that his conclusions were based purely on mathematical analysis and observational evidence. His primary concern was understanding the universe, not proving religious doctrine. Gradually, evidence supporting Lemaitre's theory began to mount. Edwin Hubble's observations of distant galaxies showed they were indeed moving away from each other, exactly as Lemaitre had predicted. Even Einstein eventually acknowledged the merit of his work, calling it the most beautiful explanation of creation I have ever heard. The term Big Bang was coined ironically by Fred Hoyle, who opposed the theory. Yet the name stuck, though Lemaitre himself never used it. His discovery represented more than just a scientific breakthrough. It demonstrated how one person could bridge seemingly insurmountable divides between faith and reason. By the time of his death in 1966, Lemaitre's theory had become the cornerstone of modern cosmology. Yet he remained modest about his achievement, seeing it not as proof of divine creation, but as a glimpse into the profound mystery of existence. In the quiet halls of Oxford in the early 1960s, a young Stephen Hawking showed little indication of the revolutionary thinker he would become. Brilliant but not exceptionally focused, he spent as much time rowing and socializing as studying. Yet beneath this typical student exterior lay a mind that would reshape our understanding of the universe. Everything changed in 1963. At age 21, while pursuing his PhD at Cambridge, Hawking received devastating news. He had motor neuron disease, with a life expectancy of just 2 years. The diagnosis transformed his life overnight. The carefree student suddenly faced mortality in the starkest terms. Rather than surrendering to despair, Hawking's response was remarkable. He immersed himself in his work with newfound intensity. As his physical capabilities declined, his mental powers seemed to grow stronger. In his small office at Cambridge, surrounded by books and papers, he began exploring the deepest questions about the universe. The cruel irony wasn't lost on him. As his body became increasingly confined, his mind roamed ever more freely through the cosmos, probing the nature of black holes and the origins of the universe itself. In these challenging early years, Hawking found crucial support through his marriage to Jane Wilde. They met shortly before his diagnosis, and Jane chose to stay despite knowing the difficult path ahead. A devout Christian with a deep interest in medieval Spanish poetry, she brought a different perspective to Hawking's increasingly scientific worldview. Their early marriage was a delicate balance of contrasts. While Hawking dove deeper into theoretical physics, Jane maintained her religious faith. Their home became a unique space where science and spirituality coexisted, often uneasily. Over breakfast, they might discuss both church hymns and quantum mechanics. As Hawking's condition progressed, Jane became not just his wife, but his lifeline to the world. She managed their household, raised their children, and helped translate his increasingly difficult speech. Through her, Hawking maintained connections to aspects of life beyond physics. Yet as his scientific reputation grew, so did the philosophical distance between them. Hawking's work led him increasingly toward a purely materialistic view of the universe, while Jane held firmly to her belief in a divine creator. Their different worldviews, once complementary, began to create an intellectual and emotional gulf. By the 1980s, Hawking had turned his attention to the ultimate question, the origin of the universe itself. Working from his wheelchair in Cambridge, he developed what would become known as the no-boundary proposal. His approach was radical, challenging not just religious concepts of creation, but fundamental assumptions about time and causality. The core of Hawking's idea was elegantly simple, yet profound. Instead of the universe having a definite starting point, he proposed that time itself behaved differently near the beginning. Just as the Earth's surface has no edge where north begins, the universe might have no absolute starting point. In lectures and papers, Hawking articulated his vision with characteristic precision. He argued that asking what came before the universe was meaningless, like asking what's north of the North Pole. The universe, he suggested, was complete in itself, requiring no external creator or cause. This proposal marked a decisive break from traditional cosmology. Where others saw divine creation, Hawking saw natural law. Where religion spoke of purpose and design, he described mathematical necessity. His work offered a purely scientific framework for understanding existence itself. Hawking's ideas revolutionized how we think about the universe's origins. Through his best-selling book, A Brief History of Time, he brought these complex concepts to millions of readers worldwide. His vision of a self-contained universe, governed solely by natural laws, became a cornerstone of modern cosmology. Despite his physical limitations, or perhaps because of them, Hawking remained active in scientific debate until his death in 2018. His work inspired generations of physicists and sparked ongoing discussions about the relationship between science and religion. Yet Hawking's greatest legacy may be how he embodied the human spirit's triumph over adversity. Confined to a wheelchair, speaking through a computer, he explored the cosmos with his mind, proving that human intelligence knows no physical bounds. His life demonstrated that the quest to understand our origins remains one of humanity's most noble pursuits. John Lennox emerged from an unlikely setting to become one of the most articulate voices in the debate about science and faith. Born in Northern Ireland during the turbulent 1940s, he grew up in an environment where intellectual curiosity was encouraged despite the surrounding tensions. His father, a local businessman, filled their home with books and fostered open discussions about science, philosophy, and religion. Young Lennox excelled in mathematics at school, eventually earning degrees from Cambridge University and continuing to doctorate studies at Oxford. Unlike many academics who saw science and faith as incompatible, Lennox developed a perspective that embraced both. In the halls of Oxford, where he would later become a professor, he built a reputation for engaging with complex ideas while maintaining intellectual honesty. His mathematical background gave him a unique advantage in debates about the universe's origins. He understood the language of science intimately, yet maintained that scientific explanation alone couldn't address the deepest questions of existence. When Hawking's book, The Grand Design, was published in 2010, Lennox was uniquely positioned to respond. When Lennox examined Hawking's central argument that the universe could create itself from nothing, he identified what he saw as a fundamental logical flaw. In his lectures at Oxford and public debates, Lennox carefully dissected the reasoning. Laws of physics don't create anything, Lennox would explain to packed lecture halls. They describe how things behave when they already exist. He used everyday examples to illustrate his point. The laws of mathematics can describe how money grows in a bank account, but they can't create the initial deposit. Lennox particularly challenged Hawking's assertion that, because there is a law such as gravity, the universe can and will create itself from nothing. With careful precision, he pointed out that gravity itself is not nothing, it's something. If gravity exists, then something exists, and we're no longer talking about nothing. In academic papers and public forums, Lennox maintained that Hawking's argument suffered from circular reasoning. The existence of physical laws presupposes the existence of something for those laws to describe. You can't invoke the laws of physics to explain the origin of the universe if those laws themselves require a universe to exist in. To illustrate his point about causality, Lennox often told the story of Baron Munchausen, the legendary teller of impossible tales. In one story, the Baron finds himself trapped in a swamp. With no external help available, he claims to have escaped by pulling himself up by his own hair. The absurdity of the Baron's tale, Lennox would explain in his lectures, lies in its violation of basic causality. You cannot be both the lifter and the lifted. He applied this same logic to the universe's origins. Nothing, he argued, can be the cause of its own existence. In published works and debates, Lennox developed this argument further. For something to cause anything, it must first exist. Therefore, if the universe caused itself, it would need to exist before it existed, a logical impossibility. He challenged audiences to consider the nature of nothing. True nothingness, he explained, isn't empty space or a vacuum. It's the complete absence of everything, including physical laws, space, and time. From such absolute nothing, he argued, something cannot spontaneously emerge without a cause outside the system. Lennox's logical approach to the question of origins has influenced a new generation of thinkers. His ability to engage with complex scientific concepts while highlighting their philosophical implications has made him a respected voice in both academic and public spheres. Through books, lectures, and debates at prestigious institutions worldwide, he has demonstrated that the dialogue between science and faith need not be hostile. His arguments have encouraged scientists to examine their philosophical assumptions and theologians to engage seriously with scientific discoveries. Perhaps most significantly, Lennox has shown how ancient questions about existence remain relevant in our technological age. His work suggests that as our scientific understanding grows deeper, the fundamental mysteries of existence, why there is something rather than nothing, and what lies behind the mathematical order of the universe, become more profound rather than less. At the heart of our universe lies a remarkable set of numbers, the fundamental constants that govern everything from atomic bonds to galactic formations. These constants appear with extraordinary precision, balanced on what seems to be an impossibly fine edge. The gravitational constant, which determines how strongly objects attract each other, exemplifies this precision. If it were slightly stronger, stars would burn out too quickly for life to develop. If slightly weaker, stars could never form at all, leaving a universe of dispersed gas. Similarly, the strength of electromagnetic force, which holds atoms together, demonstrates astonishing accuracy. A minute change in either direction would prevent stable atoms from forming, making complex chemistry, and therefore life, impossible. The ratio between the masses of protons and neutrons shows equal precision. This ratio determines how elements are formed in stars, and ultimately what kind of matter can exist in our universe. Even a tiny variation would render impossible the existence of elements essential for life. Perhaps most striking is the cosmological constant, which controls the universe's expansion rate. Its value is tuned to an almost unimaginable degree of precision, 1 part in a trillion and more. If it were even slightly different, the universe would either collapse instantly or expand so rapidly that no structures could ever form. The precision of these universal constants has sparked intense debate in both scientific and philosophical circles. The core question is unavoidable. How did these numbers come to be so perfectly tuned for the existence of complex structures in life? Some scientists, like Martin Rees, argue that this fine-tuning demands explanation. The odds against these constants having their precise values by pure chance are astronomical. It's as if we discovered a giant combination lock that had been perfectly set to allow the universe to exist as we know it. Others suggest that our universe might be one of many. each with different constants. In this view, we naturally find ourselves in a universe where the constants allow for our existence. Yet this explanation, while mathematically possible, raises its own profound questions about the nature of reality. The debate extends beyond pure science. Philosophers point out that even a multiverse would need its own set of meta-laws to explain how different universes arise. The question of fine-tuning thus leads to deeper issues about the nature of physical law itself. Even those who reject any implications of design must grapple with the extraordinary precision of these numbers. The fact remains that our universe appears balanced on a knife edge of possibility, its fundamental constants aligned in just the right way to allow for complexity and life. In 1656, Amsterdam's Jewish community pronounced an extraordinary decree. Baruch Spinoza, aged just 23, was cast out completely from his religious community. The terms of his excommunication were unusually harsh. No one could speak with him, write to him, or even stand within 4 cubits of his presence. The young philosopher had committed no crime. His offense was intellectual. He had begun to question traditional religious teachings and develop his own understanding of God and nature. Born into a community of Portuguese Jewish merchants, Spinoza had received a thorough education in religious texts and philosophical works. Working as a lens grinder to support himself, Spinoza lived a modest life in solitude, yet his mind roamed freely through the most profound questions of existence. In his small rented room, surrounded by his tools and books, he developed ideas that would challenge centuries of religious and philosophical thought. Despite the persecution he faced, Spinoza maintained remarkable composure. He continued his work with quiet determination, corresponding with other thinkers across Europe, and refining his revolutionary ideas about God, nature, and human understanding. Spinoza's vision of God was radical in its simplicity. Instead of a personal deity who created the universe and intervened in human affairs, he proposed something far more profound: God as the very essence of existence itself. In his masterwork, Ethics, written in the style of geometric proofs, Spinoza argued that God and nature were one and the same. Everything that exists, he claimed, is a direct expression of this divine substance. The stars, planets, living creatures, and even human thoughts are all manifestations of this single, unified reality. For Spinoza, God wasn't separate from the universe, but was the universe in its deepest nature. The laws of nature weren't commands imposed by a distant creator, but expressions of divine necessity. Everything that happens occurs because it must, following from the essential nature of reality itself. This view challenged both traditional religion and emerging scientific materialism. While religious authorities saw it as heresy and scientists viewed it as mysticism, Spinoza maintained that he was simply describing reality as it truly is. His God wasn't found in temples or sacred texts, but in the mathematical order of nature itself. Centuries after Spinoza's death, his ideas found a powerful champion in Albert Einstein. When asked about his religious beliefs, Einstein often referenced Spinoza, stating, "I believe in Spinoza's God, who reveals himself in the orderly harmony of what exists." Einstein discovered Spinoza's works early in his career, and the philosopher's vision of a rational, ordered universe deeply resonated with him. Like Spinoza, Einstein rejected the idea of a personal God who intervened in human affairs. Instead, he saw divine presence in the elegant mathematical structure of reality. In his letters and conversations, Einstein repeatedly expressed his admiration for Spinoza's understanding of causality and determinism. He saw in Spinoza's philosophy a framework that aligned perfectly with his own scientific work, a universe governed by precise, unchangeable laws. For both thinkers, understanding the universe was a form of religious experience. Einstein echoed Spinoza when he spoke of the rapturous amazement he felt at discovering the harmony hidden in natural laws. This wasn't mere coincidence. It reflected a shared vision of reality as fundamentally rational and comprehensible. Today, Spinoza's vision continues to influence modern thought about the relationship between science and spirituality. His concept of a unified reality finds echoes in contemporary physics' search for fundamental laws that govern all of nature. Scientists and philosophers still grapple with questions Spinoza raised. The relationship between mind and matter, the nature of causality, and the possibility of genuine free will in a deterministic universe. His ideas resonate particularly with those seeking to bridge the gap between scientific understanding and spiritual experience. Even in an age of quantum mechanics and expanding cosmology, Spinoza's central insight, that ultimate reality is one unified whole, remains compelling. His vision offers a way to think about God that neither contradicts scientific knowledge nor abandons the human need for meaning and connection to something larger than ourselves. In the quiet halls of early 20th century psychiatric practice, Carl Jung developed a radically different approach to understanding humanity's relationship with the divine. Drawing from his work with patients and his own inner explorations, he began to see religious impulses as fundamental aspects of human psychology. Jung noticed that regardless of cultural background or personal beliefs, his patients frequently encountered similar symbols and themes in their dreams and inner experiences. Within the depths of the human psyche, he discovered patterns that seemed universal, archetypes that appeared across cultures and throughout history. Working from his home in Switzerland, surrounded by books and patient notes, Jung meticulously documented these recurring patterns. He observed how individuals, whether religious or not, naturally created meaningful narratives about their lives and the universe. These weren't mere superstitions, but expressions of something deeper in human nature. His approach differed markedly from his mentor Freud's dismissal of religion as mere illusion. Where Freud saw religious belief as a symptom of neurosis, Jung recognized it as an expression of fundamental psychological needs and experiences. Jung discovered that certain symbols and patterns appeared consistently in human consciousness across different cultures and times. He called these universal patterns archetypes, primordial images that reside in what he termed the collective unconscious. In his clinical practice, Jung observed how these archetypes emerged spontaneously in dreams, art, and religious experiences. The mother figure, the hero, the wise old man, and significantly, the concept of God, appeared as fundamental patterns in human psychology. Through careful documentation of his patients' experiences, Jung showed how these archetypes weren't learned, but seemed innate to human consciousness. Like a hidden language of the psyche, they shaped how people understood and experienced reality. The God archetype held special significance in Jung's theory. He noted how individuals naturally formed images of divine or transcendent power, even when they consciously rejected religious belief. These weren't mere cultural constructs, but expressions of a deep psychological need to connect with something greater than the individual self. In his private study, filled with artifacts from various cultures, Jung carefully mapped these universal patterns, showing how they manifested in different societies while maintaining their essential structure. For Jung, the human conception of God was neither pure illusion nor simple reflection of external reality. Instead, he saw it as a manifestation of the psyche's deepest structures. In his clinical observations, even committed atheists would dream of divine figures or experience moments of transcendent meaning. Through his extensive work with patients, Jung documented how religious symbols emerged naturally from the unconscious mind. These weren't merely inherited cultural images, but expressions of fundamental psychological patterns. Whether in dreams, art, or spiritual experiences, people consistently created similar images of the divine. In his private writings, particularly The Red Book, Jung explored his own encounters with these deep psychological realities. He discovered that the human psyche naturally generates experiences of the sacred and transcendent, regardless of conscious beliefs. This understanding led Jung to a profound conclusion. The question of God's objective existence was less important than understanding how the divine functions in human psychology. Whether God exists outside human consciousness became secondary to understanding how the God image shapes human experience and development. Jung's insights continue to influence how we understand humanity's relationship with the divine. His work suggests that religious experience isn't simply a matter of belief or cultural conditioning, but reflects fundamental patterns in human consciousness. Modern psychological research has found support for Jung's basic insight that humans naturally create meaning and seek connection with something larger than themselves. Whether through traditional religion, scientific pursuit, or personal spirituality, people continue to engage with questions of ultimate meaning. His framework offers a unique perspective on the persistent human quest to understand our origins and place in the universe. It suggests that whether we approach these questions through science, philosophy, or religion, we are engaging with deep structures of human consciousness that shape how we experience and understand reality. The question, who created God, leads us through a remarkable journey of human thought. From ancient stargazers to modern physicists, from expelled philosophers to pioneering psychologists, each perspective adds depth to our understanding of this fundamental mystery. We've seen how Lemaitre found harmony between faith and science, while Hawking sought answers purely within natural law. Lennox challenged us to examine our logical assumptions, while Spinoza redefined the very concept of God. Jung helped us understand why humans persistently seek answers to these ultimate questions. The fine-tuning of universal constants presents us with an elegant universe that seems almost purposefully crafted, yet resists simple explanation. Each approach, scientific, philosophical, and psychological, illuminates different aspects of the same profound mystery, the origin and nature of existence itself. Perhaps the question, who created God, reveals more about ourselves than about any ultimate reality. It reflects humanity's persistent desire to understand our place in the cosmos and find meaning in existence. As we continue to explore these questions through science, philosophy, and human experience, we may find that the answers lie not in choosing between different perspectives, but in understanding how each contributes to our search for truth. The mystery of existence remains as profound today as it was when our ancestors first gazed at the stars. Our growing knowledge has not diminished this mystery, but has revealed its ever greater depth and complexity. Thank you for joining us on this profound journey through the mysteries of existence. If these questions about our origins and purpose resonated with you, we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What's your perspective on the relationship between science, faith, and human consciousness? Please support our channel by subscribing to join our community of curious minds. If you found value in this exploration, share it with friends and family who might appreciate these deep discussions. Your like helps us reach more people interested in these fundamental questions about existence. Together, let's continue exploring life's greatest mysteries. Stay tuned for more content that challenges our understanding of reality and our place in the universe.